The Akula-Class submarines are a family of third-generation, multi-purpose, nuclear-powered subs. The Soviet Union designed them to hunt down other submarines and surface ships, as well as to gather intelligence. They feature a double steel hull, which increases their survivability and makes them harder for sonar to detect. These subs are roughly 360 feet long with a beam of 44 feet. Their surface displacement reaches 8,970 tons, while their submerged displacement is over 14,080 tons. Powered by a 190 megawatt VM5 reactor, they can reach a submerged speed of 33 knots. 14 of these vessels were built from 1984 to 2009. This includes 8 base model Akula-1 boats, 3 improved versions, and 3 Akula-2 submarines. The latter received a lengthened hull, additional torpedo tubes, and advanced noise reduction technology. Construction took place mainly at shipyards in Komsomolsk-on-Amur and Severodvinsk. Development began in 1976. Because of a titanium shortage for the earlier Sierra-class submarines, the Malachite Design Bureau opted for mass production using a special low magnetic steel. This allowed them to be built at shipyards in the Far East. The project was approved in 1977, but by 1980 it had to be revised to counter the American Los Angeles-class submarines. To reduce noise, they used the latest technologies of the time, including equipment from the Japanese company Toshiba for milling the propellers. The first submarine, K-284 Akula, entered service in 1984. It served as a prototype and was decommissioned in 1995. Subsequent vessels joined the Northern and Pacific fleets. At peak production, 1 or 2 submarines were rolled out per year until construction halted in the mid-1990s due to a lack of funding. As of 2008, about 5 Akula-1 submarines remained in service. 3 were in reserve, and 2 Akula-2 boats were actively deployed. Their numbers eventually dropped, since submarine reactors typically have a 30-year service life. Armament includes 4 26-inch and 4 21-inch torpedo tubes, and in later versions, this number was increased to 10. The Akulas can carry up to 40 weapons. These include Type 53 65K torpedoes, RPK-2 Vyuga anti-submarine missiles, and Granite or Caliber cruise missiles for striking land targets over 1,550 nautical miles away. In addition, they carry mines and Igla-M anti-aircraft missiles. Advanced sonar systems, like the MGK-540, allow them to detect targets in both passive and active modes. Starting in 2014, the submarines have been undergoing modernization. They are getting updated navigation, communication, and weapons systems to extend their service life to 2030 and bring them closer to 4th-generation standards. The submarine K-152 Nirpa, which was later renamed Chakra, was leased to India in 2012 for 10 years for $974 million. It was returned in 2021. Despite their export potential, these vessels are gradually being phased out and replaced by the new Yasin-class submarines. As of 2024, 6 operational Akula-class submarines remain in the Russian fleet. With the fleet shrinking, they are focused on hunting down enemy submarines and surface ships. Back in the 1970s, the Soviet Navy felt an urgent need for a new generation of multi-purpose nuclear submarines. They had to match the stealth and speed of the new American Los Angeles-class boats, which began entering service in 1976 and featured advanced sonar systems and low noise levels. This necessity arose due to the aging of previous Soviet models, specifically the Victor-class submarines. During the Cold War, it was vital to maintain parity in submarine standoffs, especially in response to the strengthening of the American fleet in the Atlantic and Pacific regions. In response, the Soviet government approved the development of Project 971, designated Shchuka-B, in July 1976. The technical design was finalized and approved on September 13, 1977. The project emphasized a steel hull design to allow for mass production at multiple shipyards. This overcame the limitations of the costly titanium hulls used in earlier classes, like the Project 945 Sierra class, while prioritizing acoustic stealth to rival United States advancements. Soviet intelligence on United States submarine quieting technologies, including propeller and machinery isolation techniques from the Los Angeles class, directly influenced revisions to the Project 971 design by 1980, improving its noise reduction features. Further progress in quieting came from the 1983 Toshiba Kongsberg scandal. Illicitly acquired computer-controlled lathes allowed for the precision machining of skewed propellers, which significantly reduced cavitation noise in Akula-Class submarines. The design was led by the Malachite Marine Engineering Bureau in Leningrad. Gennady Nikolaevich Chernyshev served as the chief designer from the beginning until his death in 1997, overseeing the integration of these strategic requirements into a versatile SSN platform. The Akula-Class submarines, designated Project 971, featured a double hull design made from a high-strength, low-magnetic steel alloy. This provided enhanced structural integrity and reserve buoyancy up to 3 times greater than that of their single-hull predecessors. This setup included a large space between the inner pressure hull and the outer light hull, housing ballast tanks and equipment. Limber holes allowed for controlled flooding to minimize noise while helping to limit damage. The hull was divided into 7 or 8 compartments, depending on the variant, which improved overall survivability. A major advancement in propulsion noise reduction was the use of a 7-bladed fixed-pitch propeller. It was driven by a single OK650B3 pressurized water reactor, rated at 190 megawatts thermal, coupled with a steam turbine that generated 43,000 shaft horsepower. This propeller design, which was based on acquired Western milling technology, significantly lowered cavitation and broadband noise emissions compared to earlier Soviet submarines. Later variants, such as Project 971A, known as the Akula-2, extended the hull by about 13 feet to fit a quieter propulsion system, further optimizing hydrodynamic efficiency. Stealth was further enhanced using advanced anechoic coatings applied to both the interior and exterior of the hulls, combined with a rafted mounting system for the propulsion plant to isolate machinery vibrations. These measures, along with sound insulation and potential active noise cancellation, dramatically reduced radiated noise levels. For example, the Akula-2 achieved an overall noise level comparable to the United States Los Angeles class submarines, and was equivalent to the improved Los Angeles class at low speeds, although it lagged behind at higher speeds. Trial data showed a sharp drop in acoustic signature after the 1980s upgrades, which were heavily influenced by silencing techniques acquired through espionage. The modular nature of the design made ongoing enhancements and maintenance much easier. Incremental modifications across production units allowed upgraded components like improved silencing systems and extended hull sections to be integrated without needing major redesigns. This adaptability supported variants ranging from the Akula-1 to the Akula-3, ensuring a prolonged service life and regular technological updates. The Akula-class submarines, known in Russia as Project 971 bars, were primarily built at 2 major facilities, the Sevmash shipyard in Severodvinsk and the Amur shipbuilding plant in Komsomolsk-on-Amur. These shipyards handled the assembly of the steel-hulled vessels, with Sevmash focusing on units for the Northern Fleet and Amur producing submarines for the Pacific Fleet. Production began in the early 1980s. The keel of the first submarine, K-284, was laid down in the fall of 1983. The peak of construction occurred during the Cold War. As a result, from 1984 to 1992, 8 submarines of the base Akula-1 model were launched. 3 more improved submarines entered service by 1995. Work on the new Akula-2 version started in 1991, but after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the pace dropped sharply. The economic crisis of the 90s and severe budget cuts froze construction for a full 10 years. The transition to a market economy ruined supply chains, although the creators of these submarines managed to avoid the titanium problems that plagued the earlier Alpha class. Because of all these difficulties, the completion of many vessels was delayed for years. In total, from 1984 to 2009, the fleet received 15 Akula-Class submarines. This was much fewer than originally planned due to a constant lack of funding. These submarines have a robust double-hull design created specifically for deep-water missions. The pressure hull is made of high-strength AK-32 steel, which can withstand massive loads. It has a cylindrical shape in the center, tapering at the ends, as well as spherical bulkheads at the bow and stern. Most internal bulkheads can withstand pressure up to 10 atmospheres, and the reinforced walls of the second compartment can handle a full 20. This design divides the submarine into 7 watertight compartments. This guarantees that the vessel will remain afloat even if one compartment and 2 adjacent ballast tanks are completely flooded with water. The length of the base Akula-1 model is 362 feet, the beam is 45 feet, and the draft is 32 feet. The Akula-2 model is slightly larger. Its length reaches 371 feet. The hull was lengthened by about 10 feet to accommodate new equipment and make the submarine even quieter. The beam and draft remained unchanged. The conning tower of the submarine stands 37 feet high and conceals the retractable masts for periscopes, radars, and communication systems. The displacement of the first model is 8,140 tons surfaced and 12,770 tons submerged. This provides a massive buoyancy reserve of 26%, which is maintained by 17 main ballast tanks. For the second model, these figures differ slightly due to design changes and a longer hull, but they generally remain about the same. To make the submarine as stealthy as possible against enemy radar, its outer hull is covered with a special 2.5-inch thick coating. It absorbs sound waves, and an additional thin layer on the inner pressure hull reduces the noise level even further. The heart of the Akula-class submarines is the OK-650B pressurized water nuclear reactor, with a thermal output of 190 megawatts. It drives a 35 megawatt GT3A steam turbine, which turns a single 7-bladed propeller. For emergencies, the boat is equipped with 2 diesel generators providing 750 horsepower each. If the main engine fails, the submarine can still move at 3 to 4 knots using a backup propeller and 2 370 kilowatt electric motors. This powerful nuclear plant gives the early versions a submerged speed of up to 33 knots, while improved models can reach a submerged speed of 35 knots. The surface speed is limited to 10 knots. The maximum diving depth reaches almost 2,000 feet. The vessel has an endurance of about 100 days. This is limited not by fuel supplies, but by the amount of provisions carried for the crew. The nuclear reactor allows for long endurance missions, and refueling is usually only needed once every 3 to 5 years during major overhauls. Maneuverability is improved by retractable bow planes. These provide ideal hydrodynamics at high speeds and stay protected from damage when the submarine surfaces through ice-covered waters. Because of this, while moving at 30 knots, the boat can turn in a circle with a radius just 5.5 times its own length. Akula-class submarines pack heavy firepower built around their torpedo tubes. The standard models are equipped with 8 of them, featuring 4 21-inch torpedo tubes in the bow and 4 26-inch torpedo tubes located closer to the center. Those larger tubes can also use special sleeve inserts to fire 21-inch weapons. On the improved Akula and Akula-2 models, this arsenal is expanded to 10 tubes by adding 6 external launchers. This significantly boosts their striking power against both surface and submerged targets. Altogether, these tubes allow the submarine to carry up to 40 weapons, including torpedoes, mines, or missiles. In special configurations, the boat can carry up to 36 mines. Its main offensive punch comes from up to 12 RK-55 Granat cruise missiles, also known as the SSN-21. These are fired from the torpedo tubes and can strike ships and land targets at a range of over 1,860 nautical miles. These missiles can be armed with 200 kiloton nuclear warheads. The modernized versions are also capable of carrying caliber 3M14 cruise missiles for precision strikes at ranges up to 1,550 nautical miles. For hunting other submarines, the boat carries up to 28 SSN-15 and SSN-16 missiles. These deliver either nuclear depth charges or Type 40 torpedoes, and they can engage targets at ranges of 28 and 62 nautical miles respectively. The torpedo arsenal mainly consists of heavy, multi-purpose weapons, like the TEST-71 series. Over time, these torpedoes evolved from simple acoustic homing systems to wire-guided variants, providing much higher accuracy. These models feature a guidance wire about 12 miles long. The control system is supplemented by acoustic homing during the terminal phase of the attack. This development reflects the overall progress of the Soviet Union in creating guided munitions at the end of the Cold War, marking the shift from passive homing to active wire guidance. For defense, the submarine has launchers with two MG-74 decoys. These torpedo-sized devices generate noise that replicates the submarine's sound signature, distracting pursuers. In addition, the boat carries 1 to 3 Igla-M anti-aircraft missile systems for defense against aircraft while surfaced. Before launching the missiles, the crew can use sonar data for initial targeting. Akula-Class submarines are equipped with the MGK-540 SCAT-3 sonar complex, known by its NATO reporting name as Shark-Gill. This system combines bow and flank arrays, providing an all-around underwater view and accurate target classification. It automatically detects objects across different frequencies and can track multiple contacts at once while keeping false alarms to a minimum. Surface search and navigation are handled by retractable masts, including a dedicated radar for operations at periscope depth and the Irdish inertial navigation system for precise positioning. Electronic intelligence is managed by the Bukta complex. It intercepts and analyzes emissions from enemy radars, helping the crew remain undetected. Communication systems include very low-frequency buoys and towed arrays like the Paravan system. Thanks to these, the submarine can receive strategic orders deep underwater without having to surface. All of this works together with the Tsunami Combat Management System. It gathers data from all sensors and helps the commander make instant tactical decisions. Declassified data shows that the noise level of Akula-Class submarines reaches 105 to 110 decibels at a submerged speed of about 20 knots. The main sources of noise are the propeller and machinery, but in ultra-quiet mode, at a submerged speed of 4 to 8 knots, this number drops to 90 or 100 decibels. This really helps avoid detection. This data is based on Soviet trials and American intelligence estimates. They confirm that these submarines are much quieter than previous generations. Akula-Class submarines entered service with the Soviet Navy in the mid-1980s. The first boat, K-284 Akula, was commissioned on December 30th, 1984. After successful trials that proved a significant reduction in noise compared to the Victor III class, it was sent to the Pacific Fleet. Initially, they were based primarily with the Northern Fleet. Following boats like K-480 Bars, which entered service in December 1988, patrolled the Atlantic. Their mission was to trail NATO convoys and practice anti-submarine warfare. These missions began around 1984. They caused a great deal of concern for NATO leadership because Soviet Akula-Class submarines operated undetected in key strategic areas. In the final years of the Cold War, these submarines took part in major exercises where they proved their tactical superiority. They successfully intercepted simulated NATO supply lines and protected Soviet surface ships using towed sonar arrays for better target detection. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, the activity of Akula-Class submarines dropped sharply. Due to a severe lack of funding for the Russian Navy, the number of patrols decreased, and by the mid-1990s, several boats were put into reserve. For example, in January 1992, the Russian Ministry of Defense announced the scrapping of 6 unfinished boats to save money, and early models, like K-284, remained in port for a long time. By 1995, many Akula-Class submarines had limited combat readiness, reflecting the overall decline of the Navy after the end of the Cold War. Leasing Akula-Class submarines to India became an important milestone in military cooperation between the two countries. This process had a backstory with another type of vessel. In 1988, the Soviet Union transferred a Charlie-class submarine specifically K-43, to the Indian Navy. In India, it was named INS Chakra and served for 3 years, until 1991. This gave Indian sailors their first experience operating nuclear submarines. The agreement was later briefly extended, but Soviet restrictions prevented India from getting full access to the technology. Cooperation reached a new level with the Akula-Class. In 2004, the parties agreed on a 10-year lease of an Akula-2 model, the submarine K-152 NERPA. After repairs and trials at the Sevmash shipyard, it was handed over to India in January 2012. On April 4, 2012, it entered service with the Indian Navy as INS Chakra II. The deal for the submarine NERPA cost about $1 billion. It included extensive training so that Indian sailors could operate the boat independently, without a Russian crew, unlike their previous experience. The Indian military went through lengthy training in Russia, where they studied submarine operation, maintenance, and the functioning of nuclear systems. This not only improved the crew's professionalism, but also helped India in creating its own Armament-class submarines. The boat was refitted for export. Nuclear-tipped missiles were removed and replaced with conventional cruise missiles to comply with international agreements. Throughout its service, which lasted until 2021, INS Chakra II patrolled the Indian Ocean. This strengthened India's submarine capabilities. The boat also took part in joint exercises, which improved interoperability between the navies of both countries. In 2024, India and Russia agreed on a second 10-year lease of an Akula-Class submarine. It is scheduled to be handed over around 2028 under the name INS Chakra III. The deal is worth about $2 billion, further strengthening naval ties between the countries amid regional threats. This cooperation is part of a broader strategic partnership that includes the joint Indra-naval exercises. They take place every 2 years and demonstrate the capabilities of the Akula-Class in anti-submarine warfare and ensuring regional security. Despite American sanctions against the Russian defense sector, which have been in place since 2018, this lease highlights India's desire to balance its relationship with Moscow. This helps counter the expansion of the Chinese Navy while still adhering to international non-proliferation norms. As of 2024, 6 active Akula-class submarines remain in the Russian fleet. They are currently undergoing modernization to extend their service life. These vessels continue to carry out missions hunting submarines and surface targets, and some of them participate in Northern Fleet exercises. In recent years, there have been no reports of confirmed losses or serious incidents involving this class. The first variant, Akula-1, built in the 1980s, became the baseline for nuclear attack submarines of this type. Its overall length was 361 feet. Its armament included 4 21-inch and 4 26-inch torpedo tubes for launching torpedoes, cruise missiles, and mines. This configuration allowed them to use different types of weapons, though the larger tubes needed adapters to fire smaller munitions. A total of 7 Akula-1 class submarines were built. The main focus during their design was a double hull structure to increase survivability, along with early noise reduction measures like special sound-absorbing coatings. The improved Akula-1 variant was developed in the early 1990s. It received upgraded armament consisting of 6 21-inch and 4 26-inch torpedo tubes, making a total of 10 tubes. Designers also put extra work into reducing noise levels. A total of 3 of these submarines were built. The Akula-2 variant, which was developed and built starting in the mid-1990s, featured an updated design. The hull was lengthened to roughly 371 feet. This made room to mount a modern propulsion system on special shock-absorbing platforms and use new materials to maximize noise reduction. The main goal behind these changes was to make the submarine quiet enough to compete on equal footing with Western equivalents of the time. The armament retained the ability to launch standard torpedoes and missiles through 10 torpedo tubes of varying calibers. 4 Akula-2 class submarines were produced, including the K-335 Gepard. It was equipped with advanced digital fire control systems for precise weapon control and sensor integration. This was the result of continuous design improvements to meet the new priorities of the fleet. Overall, the production of this class included the lead submarine K-284 Akula, which entered service in 1984, along with 7 regular Akula-1, 3 improved Akula-1, and 4 Akula-2 submarines. A total of 15 vessels were built. All of the later boats were built using the lessons learned from earlier ones, making them even stealthier and more reliable. After the end of the Cold War, the Russian fleet began a massive modernization of the Akula-Class submarines. Due to funding shortages, this was the best way to extend their service life and improve their combat capabilities. During the 2000s and 2010s, the Zvezdochka shipyard in Severodvinsk and the Zvezda shipyard in Bolshoi Kamen focused on replacing key systems. The original hulls were kept, but the upgrades allowed the submarines to serve well beyond their initial 30-year lifespan. They received new sonar equipment, as well as updated navigation, control, communication, and life support systems. This made them harder to detect and significantly boosted their combat effectiveness, bringing them closer to 4th-generation standards. By 2018, 7 Akula-class submarines were undergoing these overhauls, and the first updated boats began returning to service in 2018 and 2019. A prime example is the modernized Akula-class submarine Vepr. Its major overhaul at the Nerpa shipyard began in 2012. Engineers completely restored all onboard systems, including the engines and weaponry. After successful sea trials in the Barents Sea in March 2020, the submarine officially returned to the Northern Fleet in June. This modernization will allow Vepr to carry out combat missions in potentially hazardous waters well into the 2030s. Other submarines of this class, like Leopard and Volk, went through similar upgrades. The main goal was to extend the service life of the nuclear reactors and update vital systems to keep the fleet combat ready. In the future, there are plans to arm the updated Akula-class submarines with caliber PL cruise missiles. They will get vertical launch systems, allowing them to strike land and sea targets much more effectively. However, these older vessels will be gradually replaced by the much more advanced Yasin-class submarines. New submarines, such as Kazan, which entered service in 2021, are being built to completely phase out the Akulas by the 2030s. But severe financial problems have significantly slowed down this process. Due to a lack of funding, repairing a single submarine drags on for 5 to 10 years, making a full fleet renewal impossible. As a result, as of 2024, only about 6 Akula-class submarines remain in service. The rest are in reserve, waiting for modernization or completely decommissioned, which clearly highlights the delays in updating the Russian fleet. One of the most tragic events involving Akula-class submarines happened on September 11, 1998, at the Skalisti Naval Base on the Kola Peninsula. An 18-year-old conscript sailor, Alexander Kuzminik, opened fire after an argument with a fellow crew member. He killed 8 crew members, most of whom were sleeping. After that, the sailor barricaded himself in a compartment and took his own life. At the time, the submarine was preparing for sea trials and did not have nuclear weapons on board. This horrific event exposed deep problems within the Northern Fleet, such as extremely low morale among conscripts, constant wage delays, and immense psychological pressure. The deadliest accident involving Akula-class submarines occurred on November 8, 2008, aboard K-152 Nerpa during its first sea trials in the Sea of Japan. The submarine's automatic fire suppression system accidentally triggered and released Freon gas into 2 forward compartments. The gas displaced the oxygen, causing people on board to suffocate or suffer lung frostbite. This led to the deaths of 20 people. 3 of them were Navy sailors and 17 were civilian shipyard workers. Another 41 people were injured. The situation was made worse by the fact that the boat was overcrowded. There were 208 people on board. In addition, the hazard warning was inadequate and there were not enough breathing apparatuses for the civilians. The cause was attributed to human error. It was claimed that a crew member, out of boredom, started playing with the system's control panel, although a court later acquitted him. The submarine itself suffered no structural damage and returned to port under its own power. But this incident delayed its commissioning and planned lease to India by several years. After repairs were completed in 2012, the the vessel joined the Indian Navy under the name INS Chakra. This accident highlighted the ongoing safety issues within the Akula program. These included an over-reliance on automated systems and gaps in training for mixed crews. In response, the Russian Navy conducted thorough inspections and improved crew training. They focused heavily on emergency procedures, equipment operation, and psychological testing to reduce future risks. Akula-Class submarines play a key role in Russian military doctrine as multi-purpose nuclear attack submarines. Their primary mission is to engage surface ships and enemy submarines. They are designed to strike aircraft carriers. To do this, the boats use torpedoes and cruise missiles, such as the RK-55 Granat. These weapons allow them to attack carrier groups and cut off sea lines of communication. This aligns with the Russian strategy of blocking enemy access in regions like the North Atlantic. Additionally, Akulas escort and protect ballistic missile submarines, like the Akula-Class. This ensures the survival of Russian nuclear deterrent forces in protected areas, such as the Barents Sea, creating a multi-layered defense. Their involvement in Arctic patrols further highlights their strategic value. They support territorial claims, protect resources, and conduct under-ice operations in the mineral-rich polar region. Their stealth allows them to defend effectively even in these harsh conditions. As of August 2024, 6 Akula-class submarines remain in the Russian Navy. About 4 of them are in active service, while the others are undergoing modernization, mainly in the Northern and Pacific fleets, despite ongoing maintenance challenges. The decommissioning of these aging vessels accelerated in the 2010s. For example, the submarine K-480 Akbars was decommissioned earlier, but completely scrapped between 2007 and 2010. This was a clear example of moving away from the early Akula models due to structural wear and tear and high upkeep costs. By the mid-2010s, several more boats were moved to long-term reserve or sent for dismantling, as priority was given to newer projects. This downsizing reflects broader fleet modernization efforts, where the Akulas are gradually being replaced by the quieter and more versatile Yasin-class submarines. The legacy of the Akula-class submarines lives on today. They had a massive impact on the next generations of Russian submarines and marked a major milestone in exports. This class provided valuable lessons in noise reduction and modular construction. This exact experience was used during the creation of the Akula-class nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines. A few of these submarines even received repurposed hull sections from decommissioned Akulas to improve efficiency and cut costs. Export variants, such as the Akula-2, which India leased in 2012 under the name INS Chakra on a 10-year contract, strengthened Russian defense ties. This showed how well this class is suited for joint operations with allies. Even though the lease ended early in 2021 because of maintenance issues, Russia agreed to hand over another Akula-class submarine to India. It will be named INS Chakra 3, but its delivery has been delayed until at least 2028. All of this highlights the continuous development of sonar and missile systems. From a geopolitical perspective, the deployment of Akula-class submarines in the 2010s caused quite a stir. In particular, an undetected patrol in the Gulf of Mexico in 2012, which echoed a similar incursion in 2009, increased tensions between the United States and Russia. These events exposed vulnerabilities in American anti-submarine defenses and highlighted the role of these boats in projecting power near Western shores.